The moment she said the words, my whole world tilted. "I'm here to repay my father's debt," she said, standing at my gate with a manila envelope shaking in her hands. I thought I'd heard her wrong. July heat pressed down on my ranch in eastern Oregon, the kind that makes your thoughts slow and your patience thin. I had been fixing a fence post, sweat running down my neck, trying not to think about the past 3 years. About loss. About how quiet life gets when it's just you and your kid holding things together. Then the gate bell rang. Nobody ever came out here, not unless something was wrong. I walked over and saw her. Mid-20s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back like she hadn't cared how it looked. Clothes worn thin. Eyes tired in a way that told me life had already taken too much from her. "Can I help you?" I asked. She swallowed. "Are you Ethan Cole?" "I am. My name is Lena Brooks." She hesitated, then forced the words out. "My father owes your father $50,000. He can't pay it. So he sent me." I laughed once, short and sharp. "That's not funny." She didn't laugh back. Instead, she held out the envelope. "The papers are inside." Something in her face made my chest tighten. Shame. Fear. Like she had already accepted something no one should ever accept. I told her to wait and went inside, my head spinning. My son Noah sat at the kitchen table, coloring. 4 years old. Blonde hair sticking up no matter what I did. "Who's that, Dad?" "Someone who's lost," I said, grabbing a folder of my father's old paperwork. "I'll be right back." At the gate, Lena hadn't moved. She stood like she expected to be told where to stand. I flipped through the papers in the envelope. Loan agreements. Legal language. My father's name forged clean enough to fool someone scared. And another document that made my stomach turn. Words that tried to turn a person into payment. "That's not real," I said. "You can't transfer a human being." "I know," she whispered, "but I signed it anyway." "Why?" Her eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. "Because I didn't have anywhere else to go." That was it. That was the moment everything changed. I didn't take the papers right away. I just looked at her and saw someone who'd been taught she was worth less than money. "Come inside," I said finally. She blinked. "What?" "It's 100 degrees out here. You look like you haven't eaten. We'll talk inside." She hesitated, then stepped through the gate. As I led her toward the house, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever debt she thought she was paying, I wasn't going to let it own her. Once she stepped into my kitchen, the reality of her hit me harder. She didn't look like someone trying to trick me. She looked like someone who had already lost. I poured her a glass of water and set it in front of her. She drank it fast, like she hadn't had a full glass in days. I made a sandwich without asking and slid it across the table. She stared at it first, then ate every bite. "Thank you," she said quietly. My son watched us from the living room. "Who's she, Dad?" "A friend," I said, choosing the easiest lie. "She's staying for a bit." Lena's shoulders stiffened like she expected me to change my mind. I went through the papers again while she ate. The loan didn't make sense. My father had never loaned anyone $50,000. He barely trusted banks, let alone people. "This debt isn't real," I said. She shook her head slowly. "My father said it was. He took me to a lawyer. He said if I didn't come here, we'd lose my mother's house." The word mother softened her voice. "Your father lied," I said, "and whoever helped him did too." Her hands started shaking. "So what happens to me now?" That question landed hard. I thought about sending her away, calling the sheriff, letting the system deal with it. That would have been easier. But I looked at her again. At the way she sat like she was bracing for impact. At the way she kept glancing at the door like she expected someone to drag her back. "You're staying here tonight," I said. "Tomorrow we go to the sheriff together." Her eyes widened. "You believe me?" "I do." She pressed her lips together, trying not to cry. "Why?" I didn't have a clean answer. Just the truth. "Because nobody should ever feel like they're property," I said. "And because I've got a kid watching how I handle this." She nodded slowly like the words mattered more than she expected. I showed her the guest room upstairs. Clean, simple, safe. As she closed the door behind her, the house felt different. Heavier, but also fuller. That night, after my son fell asleep, I sat alone at the table staring at those papers. Someone had tried to sell a human being, and somehow she had landed on my doorstep. I didn't know what fixing this would cost, but I knew I wasn't sending her back. Morning came too fast. I woke to the smell of eggs and coffee, something that hadn't happened in my house since my ex-wife left. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Then I heard Lena's soft footsteps in the kitchen. She stood at the stove, flipping eggs like she belonged there. She looked nervous when she noticed me watching. "I hope this is okay," she said. "I didn't know what else to do." "It's more than okay," I said, and I meant it. Noah climbed into his chair and smiled at her. "You make good eggs." She smiled back, surprised. "Thank you." That small moment hit me harder than I expected. After breakfast, I dropped Noah at my neighbor Mary's place and drove Lena into town. She stared out the window the whole way, hands clenched in her lap. "What if they don't believe me?" she asked. "They will," I said, "and if they don't at first, I will." The sheriff's office smelled like old coffee and paper. Sheriff Marquez listened quietly as I explained everything. He read the document slowly, his jaw tightening. "This isn't legal," he said finally, "not even close." Lena's breath caught. "So I'm not stuck?" "No," he said firmly, "you're not." They took statements, copied papers, asked careful questions. When we walked back outside, Lena looked like someone who'd just taken her first full breath in years. Back at the ranch, something shifted. She helped with the fence without being asked, fed the animals, laughed when Noah showed her a crooked drawing and told him it was perfect. That night we sat on the porch watching the sky fade into dark blue. "I didn't think anyone would help me," she said quietly. "I thought you'd just send me away." "I almost did," I admitted, "but I couldn't." She looked at me then, really looked at me. "Why?" "Because someone once left my kid," I said, "and I promised myself I'd never be the kind of man who looks away." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she smiled, small, real, and for the first time since she arrived, she looked like she believed she might actually belong somewhere. The next few days settled into a strange rhythm. Lena moved around the ranch like she was afraid to take up space, always asking before she did anything. I kept telling her she didn't need permission. Still, she asked. She cooked, cleaned, helped with chores. Not because I asked, but because she didn't know how to be still. I recognized that. One afternoon, I found her fixing a loose hinge on the barn door. "You don't have to earn your stay," I said. She didn't look up. "I know. I just don't know how to exist without earning it." That hit harder than I expected. Later that evening, the call came. The detective said they'd confirmed the loan was fake. The lawyer who helped her father had been disbarred years ago. The debt didn't exist. I watched Lena as I told her. Her face went pale. "So, my father lied about everything?" "Yes." She sat down slowly like her legs gave out. "Then why did he do it?" "We don't know yet," I said, "but they're looking for him." That night, she didn't eat much. She sat on the porch steps long after dark, hugging her knees. I joined her. "If this was all a lie," she said, "then what was I to him?" I didn't answer right away. Some questions didn't have clean answers. "You were someone he failed," I said finally. "That's on him, not you." She nodded, but I could tell the words were still sinking in. The next morning, my son asked her if she was leaving. She froze. I stepped in. "Lena's staying for now." "For how long?" he asked. She crouched down to his level. "I don't know, but I'm here today." He seemed satisfied with that. Over the next week, the house felt less quiet, less empty. Lena laughed more. Noah followed her everywhere. And I started to realize something dangerous. I didn't just feel responsible for her. I cared, deeply. And if this situation ended badly, it wouldn't just break her. It would break all of us. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while Lena and I were fixing a fence near the south pasture. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. It was the detective. They had found her father. Lena stopped hammering the moment she saw my face change. "What is it?" "They arrested him," I said quietly. "He's in custody." Her knees buckled. I dropped the hammer and caught her before she hit the ground. For a moment, she didn't react at all. Then her whole body started shaking. "I thought I'd feel relief," she whispered. "But all I feel is sick." "That's normal," I said. "He's still your father." She pulled back, wiping her face. "They said he tried this before with other people." Anger burned in my chest. "They won't let him hurt anyone else." That night she barely slept, neither did I. The next morning we drove back into town so she could give a full statement. I dropped Noah at Mary's house again. He hugged Lena tight before we left. "Don't go away," he said. "I'm not," she promised, her voice breaking. At the sheriff's office, they walked her through everything. Every lie, every document, every moment her father had cornered her into believing she was worth less than money. I sat beside her the whole time. When it was over, she looked empty, like she'd poured out everything she had. On the drive home, she stared out the window. What if I don't know how to live without fear? You learn, I said, slowly, with people who don't use you. That night, she told me about her mother, about how she used to braid Lena's hair and tell her she was strong. I forgot that, Lena said. I forgot who I was before everything went wrong. I looked at her then and realized something scared me. I didn't want her to leave when this was over. I wanted her safe, happy here. And that wasn't just kindness anymore. That was something deeper, something that could change everything. 2 nights later, the past showed up at my gate. It was close to 9 when I heard tires on gravel. Headlights crept up the drive and stopped by the fence. My stomach dropped. Nobody came out here after dark. I looked out the window and saw 3 men step out of a black SUV. They didn't ring the bell. One of them carried bolt cutters. "Lena," I said, keeping my voice low, "take Noah upstairs, lock the bathroom door." She didn't argue. She grabbed Noah and ran. I pulled my father's old shotgun from the closet and stepped onto the porch. The tallest man smiled like we were old friends. "Ethan Cole?" "That's far enough," I said. "I'm Rafael Delgado," he said. "Your guest owes me money." "She doesn't owe you anything." He laughed softly. "Her father says otherwise." I raised the shotgun just enough to make my point. "You need to leave." He stepped closer. "I don't want trouble. I want what I'm owed." "What you're doing is illegal." "Prove it," he said. "Until a judge tells me otherwise, I collect." Behind me, the house was silent. Noah, Lena. My heart pounded. "This is private property," I said. "You come any closer and the sheriff will be here before you make it back to the road." He studied my face, then smiled again. "This isn't over." He waved his men back to the SUV and drove off into the night. The moment they were gone, I locked the door and called the sheriff. A patrol car arrived within the hour. Lena came downstairs with Noah clinging to her. "He came for me," she whispered. "I won't let anyone take you," I said. "Ever." She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. That night nobody slept, but something changed. Fear had knocked on our door, and it didn't win. The next morning felt unreal, like we were walking through fog after a storm. The sheriff called before breakfast. They had arrested Delgado overnight. Federal charges, fraud, extortion. Everything he'd threatened us with collapsed in a single phone call. Lena sat down hard in the kitchen chair when I told her. "So it's over?" she asked. "The danger part is," I said. "There's still court, testimony, but he can't come near you again." She pressed her hands over her face and let out a shaky breath. I kept thinking I'd have to run, that I'd never stop running. "You don't," I said, "not anymore." A week later, we sat in a courtroom together. Lena testified against her father. I watched her hands tremble at first, then steady as she spoke. She didn't cry. She didn't look away. She told the truth. When the judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Lena closed her eyes like she was finally laying something down she'd been carrying her whole life. Outside the courthouse, she leaned into me. "I thought standing up to him would destroy me." "It didn't," I said. "It freed you." That night, back at the ranch, Noah crawled into her lap on the couch. "You're not leaving now, right?" he asked. She looked at me before answering. "No, I'm staying." He smiled and went back to his toys like it was the most natural thing in the world. Later, after Noah was asleep, Lena and I sat on the porch under a sky full of stars. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do next," she said. "But I know I don't want to do it alone." My heart pounded. I didn't plan the words. They just came. "Then don't," I said, "and stay. Build something here, with us." She looked at me for a long moment, eyes shining. "I'd like that," she said, "oh, more than anything." And when I took her hand, it felt less like a promise and more like the truth finally catching up to us. A year later, the ranch didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt alive. Lena stood beside me in the pasture, watching Noah chase the chickens while laughing like nothing in the world could ever hurt him again. The sun was low, painting everything gold. "I used to think my life was already over," Lena said softly. "The day I rang your bell, I thought I was walking into the end of myself." I looked at her. "You walked into the beginning." She smiled, the kind of smile that comes from believing it. After the trials ended and the lies were buried where they belonged, Lena stayed. Not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she chose to. She took classes in town, helped expand the ranch, turned this place into something warmer, fuller. And somehow, without either of us saying it out loud at first, we became a family. One night, after Noah was asleep, Lena sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I need to tell you something," she said. I waited. For a long time, I believed I was worth exactly what someone else said I was worth. A debt. A burden. Something to be traded. Her voice didn't shake anymore. "But you never treated me like that. Not once." I reached for her hand. "I didn't save you," I said. "You saved yourself. I just stayed." She squeezed my fingers. "Then stay with me, for real." My chest tightened. I already am. Months later, I asked her to marry me on that same porch where she once cried in silence. Noah held the ring box with both hands like it was treasure. She said yes before I finished the question. Now, when I wake up, I hear her humming in the kitchen. I hear my son calling her mom without fear. I see a future that feels earned, not borrowed. She didn't come here to repay a debt. She came here to reclaim her life. And in doing that, she gave me something I didn't know I was missing. A partner, a family, a home that finally feels whole.